When you think of Cornwall, what comes to mind?
Probably the pasties.
Yeah, the Cornish pasties.
Well, of course, there's the Cornish Pasty, I think it is pronounced. I call it a pasty.
Cornish pasties.
Cornish pasties, and what?
Every time.
But how Cornish is a Cornish pasty? In 2011, the traditional Cornish pasty was awarded the Protected Geographic Indication, or PGI status, by the EU. This means that the Cornish pasty must be produced within Cornwall and is effectively given a trademark, so that manufacturers from outside Cornwall can't imitate and sell their products as traditional Cornish pasties. This legislation is important because it allows regional food products and rural economies that may be vulnerable to EU expansion to be protected. We want to investigate whether the PGI status of Cornish pasties encourages or inhibits their sustainability. So what ingredients are in a traditional Cornish pasty? In accordance with the PGI status, 12.5% of the pasty must consist of beef, which is traditionally skirred. 25% must consist of vegetables including potato, swede, onion, and seasoning to taste. The local has been frequently associated with sustainable and healthy consumption patterns, so we wanted to investigate the sustainability of the production of the Cornish pasty and find out where local bakers source their ingredients.
They're all sourced locally, and all ingredients have to be Cornish.
All our fruit and veg comes from a supplier in Newquay. All our meat comes from butchers just behind the bakery, actually, up on the industrial estate. So, and he sources Cornish as far as possible as well. So.
The pastry, all the traditional ingredients that we use for pastry, unfortunately, are not obtainable from Cornwall locally, but every other ingredient, wherever possible, is actually purchased locally.
We source as much as we can locally, but it's quite difficult with Cornwall being quite a sort of small area and not producing that much.
Anybody in the trade saying it's all local, they're lying.
Clearly there is uncertainty surrounding the need for ingredients to be sourced in Cornwall in order for a pasty to be considered a local or indeed sustainable food source. The pasty here demonstrates the concept of a wicked problem. The sustainability of local Cornish food can be measured in terms of food miles, the distance travelled by food from the producer to the consumer. Sourcing pasty ingredients locally would be the most sustainable option, however, this is not feasible all year round. In these cases, the PGI status then exacerbates the pasty's food miles, as the legislation insists that the pasty itself is produced in Cornwall regardless of where its ingredients have travelled from. Economic and cultural factors also come into play when considering the EU status of the Cornish pasty. The PGI status of a Cornish pasty has been notably helpful in sustaining a large quantity of Cornwall's economy, with the pasty industry contributing 3% of Cornwall's GDP.
I think Cornwall has become a fantastic destination of food, and whether you're in the city of London or Yorkshire, you see the Cornish stuff on the menus. I think we ought to be very proud of what we're producing and what we're sending throughout the UK, throughout the world now.
About 300, maybe up to 500, sort of in the summer.
August, I'm baking 2,500 pasties a day.
One thing I'm super up for is the brand Cornwall getting stronger, because I think when brand Cornwall is strong, or when Cornwall PLC or Cornwall Limited is strong, that's when we have an outward looking perspective.
The Cornish pasty makes up part of a collective Cornish brand which is becoming increasingly prominent on the world stage. Brand Cornwall is so prominent not only because of the quality of the individual products created here, but it's these products coming together with the heritage and landscape which are synonymous with the Cornish spirit. The future sustainability of the Cornish pasty will be decided by how the PGI status is interpreted going forward into a post-Brexit Britain, and by whether consumers actually care whether the Cornish pasties they buy are made with ingredients sourced within the county.
I think if it's going to be considered a traditional Cornish pasty, then yeah, it would have to be from Cornwall.
They should be, yes, to be a true Cornish pasty, yes. Not really.
Locally sourced? Well, they're called Cornish pasty. It's got to be from Cornwall.
As long as it tastes.
So you wouldn't care if it was from Spain?
No, I wouldn't.
Locally sourced?
No, if it tastes like a Cornish pasty, I'm
it's all about authenticity.